Welcome to the WRAL Daily Download. I'm your host, Amanda Lamb. In today's conversation with Five on Your Side's Keely Arthur, we're talking about hurricane preparedness. It feels like we're always preparing for storms here in North Carolina. And sometimes they don't come. But when they do come, there are very specific things you need to have on hand in case of an emergency. You could lose power, roads could be impassable. After major storms, there can be shortages of things like gas, water, and groceries. So these are things we need to think about during hurricane season because it's better to be prepared and not need a hurricane kit than not to have one. Keely, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
So we talk about this every year, but it's really important to know what to include in your hurricane preparation kit, and it's hard to narrow it down to 5. So let's begin with kind of the bigger list. What should people have on hand?
Yeah, I think anything that you need in your daily life, like your medications, things that your kids use, baby supplies, pet supplies, toiletries, of course, water, food, clothing. I mean, these are all things that are kind of no-brainers, but also if you're going on a trip, like you're going on to a cabin or something like that, what are you going to bring? And in a way, it can be kind of fun to pack these hurricane kind of go bags and items because you can think of it that way, but you don't want to do it in haste. So I think as a journalist, I have a go bag of things that will kind of get me through, and you want to do that when we're not dealing with a hurricane in our midst. The good thing about hurricanes is we can prepare for them because they're forecasted so far out.
So you can have it ready to go just in case. And obviously, you might end up at a shelter. You might be going to a hotel. You might be going to a friend or relative's home. So again, like you said, just all the things that you would normally take.
Portable chargers is a good thing. And paperwork IDs, of course. Take photos of all those things as well.
To have them with you. So I know it's so hard to believe we're all so connected to the internet and we expect electricity, but that is something that frequently goes out in a storm. So there are a few little things that you should think about when it comes to electricity. Like you said, portable chargers. That's a great one.
Yeah, and invest in a small transistor radio. Of course, don't forget batteries, and then really charge everything up. We don't know how long the power is going to be out, but if you rely heavily on like your iPad, all these things, make sure they're at a full charge so you don't have to freak out about it immediately.
I was looking too at some of the things that we've reported on in the past and things you don't think about. Okay, let's say you take canned food with you. You need a manual can opener to open some of those cans if they don't have a tab.
And it gets, the other thing, we're so spoiled. I forget. It gets so dark. You need flashlights. I like those little lanterns that you can kind of sit, and they're really powerful. And my power, I don't know where, but for some reason, wherever I live in Raleigh, the power's out a lot. And so having those flashlights and stuff, it makes all the difference.
And definitely, like if you're going to stay in your home, candles and lighters and things like that. So anything to light your home. Well, we are going to talk more about this after the break. Welcome back to the WRAL Daily Download. So obviously, when we're talking about hurricane preparedness and talking about creating a kit, the longer you're away from your home or sheltering in place, if that's the situation, the more supplies you're going to need. So what's the rule of thumb, just in general, if you hear a hurricane is on the way, in terms of what you should have on hand?
So Five on Your Side suggests having enough supplies for 3 days. But Amanda, I don't know if you remember this, but I'm a Midwesterner. I called you when I was about to cover my first hurricane, and you gave me the cautionary tale of really over packing and over preparing because you just don't know what's going to happen. 3 days is a great rule of thumb. But now, because of your advice, I pack weeks worth of stuff, and it thankfully never is needed. But I mean, my gosh, when I'm covering a hurricane and dealing with a bunch of other things, that is something you don't have to worry about because you have all the food, you have all the water you need.
One less thing to be concerned. Yeah. And I covered Hurricane Fran back in 1996, and we lost power for weeks in this area, in the Raleigh area. And I remember just so specifically, people had coolers because their food was going to go bad, and they needed to have, fresh food, or the food that was going bad in the refrigerators, they moved it to coolers. And so ice became a premium. Another thing that we may not think about is when there's no electricity, You can't use a credit card, and there's no ATMs.
Yeah, cash is king.
So cash is king. So those are all little things that you might not think about. And then in addition to that, of course, if you're going to be cleaning up damage, you're going to need tools. You're going to need a chainsaw, an axe, a rake.
And gloves, things that are going
gloves.
to keep your body safe when you're dealing with all these types of things that we have to deal with from storm debris and damage.
So let's try to cull this down because this is a lot of stuff. It's really important to be prepared. But if you're just talking about what's critical, where, we're talking about maybe the top 5 categories, what would you say are the really critical things?
Yes, this is boiling it down. Radio, because you need that communication. You think, I don't need a radio. You don't know what's going to happen if the power's out and we don't have internet. We need the radio. Flashlight, of course, cash, as we mentioned. Food, non-perishable food that's easy to open, water, and anything that's going to keep you and your items dry. So I like to put everything in bags that I know are waterproof and even like, a Ziploc bag, something like that, garbage bags. I mean, it does not have to look cute. You're not going on vacation, but you want to keep yourself and your stuff dry.
Yeah, and when it does become wet, it's great to have those garbage bags. I learned that during Hurricane Florence. We were in a hotel with no power for 4 days and the windows didn't open. And it rained for 4 days. And so your stuff starts to really get funky because it's damp. So it was really nice to have garbage bags to put things
stuff away.
in. Yeah, to put stuff away. So, the good news is you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You can create this kit and really you can use the same one year after year. Just update it, check on the batteries. Obviously, you want to change out the food and water. But it's the kind of thing I think that you can kind of put away somewhere.
Yeah, it is. And you can do it. People listening, you can do it right now. And then also FEMA has a great list of documents that you should keep with you in case of this. So just keeping copies of those things. Again, if you're well prepared, this is something that you're not going to have to worry about on the back end, and it'll save you a lot of anxiety.
Absolutely. I like to be prepared, so that's a good thing. Keely, thank you so much for sharing these tips with us, and I know our audience appreciates it. If you are listening to this podcast on WRAL.com or the WRAL app, you can find us on any podcast app. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Overcast, pretty much anywhere podcasts live, you'll find more episodes of the WRAL Daily Download. As always, thanks for listening.